In the languages of East Africa, this great lake has many names. The Luo call it Nnalubaale. The Luganda know it as Nnalubaale. Colonial powers named it Lake Victoria, covering 68,800 square kilometers and supporting over 40 million people across 5 countries. The Lake Victoria Basin encompasses not only the lake itself, but a diverse network of rivers, streams, grasslands, forests, and wetlands. As the source of the White Nile, this interconnected system plays a vital role in sustaining life across East Africa. The basin's story begins in the highlands, where forests like Kakamega in Kenya and Mabira in Uganda regulate water and climate. Through evapotranspiration, these forests generate the rainfall that feeds rivers flowing towards the lake.
We receive a lot of rains from Mabira forest as a result of evapotranspiration. You find the vapor goes into the atmosphere, reaches the condensation level, and the rain is back here. And people farm.
Tuna vitu muhimu sana kutoka kwa Kakamega Forest. Kwanza tunapokea hewa safi, inatuletea watalii tourism kuja kuangalia msitu wetu.
It's a source of income for those that are fetching the dead wood from the forest. It's also a source of grazing because we have grazing fields which are termed as glades where we can only get grass for cattle. And besides it, we have trees that have medicinal values.
Communities have maintained deep relationships with these forest systems across generations. Traditional knowledge guides the sustainable use of forest resources, from medicinal plants to seasonal farming patterns. Trees provide medicines from their bark, leaves, and roots, knowledge passed down through families for centuries.
Hapa kwa msitu hii tunatumia kupata dawa ndani. Alafu tukiwa na shughuli zetu za watoto kuenda chondoni, tunapeleka hapa msituni, wanakaa hapo. Lazima wakae hapo ndani kwa muda wa siku 40. Ambapo wanakaa kule wakati wamepashwa tohara mpaka wapone ndio warudi nyumbani.
As rivers flow through the basin, they create extensive wetland systems in low-lying areas. These wetlands act as natural water treatment plants where vegetation filters pollutants and excess nutrients before water reaches the main lake. But their importance extends far beyond the basin itself.
The Lake Victoria Basin ecosystem is a rich and diverse ecosystem which offers diverse habitats for different groups of organisms, both animals and plants. We find aquatic ecosystems, particularly the wetland ecosystems. We find almost all types of wetlands. We have the riverine wetlands, we have the floodplains, we have the marshes, and these aquatic ecosystems, they have close interconnection with the main Lake Victoria itself.
These diverse wetland types support remarkable biodiversity. Mabamba wetland on the northern shores of the lake provides a sanctuary for the endangered species like the shoebill stork while serving multiple community needs.
Mabamba Bay is a wetland of international importance. It's called the Ramsar site, driven from the Ramsar Convention, which designates some wetlands as wetlands of international importance.
This wetland is very, very important to all people around here. The best services we get is water, and then it's also it gives another services like people comes in here, we get fish.
It is this water that enters Lake Victoria through the swamp, which we also know that goes till it reaches Sudan, Egypt, and Mediterranean Sea. So we'll find that even people from Egypt will suffer when this thing dries up.
They get building materials, a number of craft material, but also they benefit from the tourism activities that take place at the wetland.
Enyanja tujamu amazzi kuzimbisa kukozesa kunywesa ente zaffe kuyuwirira birime.
This interconnected system flows into Africa's largest lake, supporting the continent's largest inland fishery. Over 4 million people depend directly on the lake for their livelihoods, with fishing communities maintaining traditional practices about sustainable fishing methods. The basin provides 1 million tons of fish annually, with 200,000 people employed in direct fishing activities. These relationships between forests, wetlands, and the lake have sustained communities across generations. This delicate balance faces unprecedented pressures. The signs are visible across the basin, in declining fish catches, changing weather patterns, and pollution threatening both ecosystems and communities.
Fishing is one of the major economic activities that people do here, but because of the increase in human population, that the fishing sector has been challenged with so many factors.
One of the contributions to this degradation is because of high poverty level in the region.
Multiple pollution sources now threaten the basin. Untreated sewage from growing cities, agricultural runoff heavy with fertilizers, and plastic waste all flow into waterways. This contamination fuels harmful algae blooms, reduces oxygen levels, and threatens the millions who depend on the lake for clean water.
We have seen pollution changes over the years, and basically this is because major cities on Lake Victoria are on the bays and gulfs, and then this directly discharge treated or untreated waste into the lake.
Climate change is rewriting the rules of survival in the Lake Victoria Basin. Rainfall patterns that guided farming for generations now arrive weeks late, or none at all. When rains do come, they bring devastating floods that can destroy entire harvests in hours. Lake levels fluctuated by over a meter in 2020 alone, displacing hundreds of thousands.
With climate change, we have had changes in rainfall patterns and changes in drought patterns. The droughts have become too extreme and more frequent. The floods have also become very frequent and extreme. So all these have affected the survival of some habitats. So it has also led to loss of species.
When forests are cleared for timber and firewood, water runs off quickly during heavy rains, causing flooding that affects fishing communities and shoreline settlements.
When you look at some of the landing sites, some people have been affected, their property, their boats, their houses have been affected by the flooding.
This is brought about by people cutting down trees in search for timber and firewood for smoking fish.
So when you go around every landing sites, people are crying the effects of the climate change. And this is not only in the fishing communities, but even the other parts of the country where there's no fishing.
The lake's biodiversity faces pressure from multiple invasive species. In the 1950s, Nile perch was introduced to boost commercial fishing. By the 1980s, these large predators had transformed the lake's ecosystem.
The introduction of Nile perch, it did what it was supposed to do. They were supposed to introduce a fish that can take care of the small haplochromines and increase the value. And indeed, that's what Nile perch did. We have seen a complete decline in number of diversity from so many number of fish species to a limited number of fish species.
And if you look at, for example, the stories we get from our forefathers and our grandmothers, how many types of fish did they see on their dinner tables? They will count up to 40 or 50, even 100. But today, you ask any common man how many types of fish they see on their dinner table, they can go as far as only 4 or 5.
Then the other issue is overfishing. The number of people here are fishing using illegal fishing methods, and we have significant rise in number of people fishing. So this has resulted into scarcity of fish because of the fishing business.
Because most of our fishers, they survive on a daily income of capturing fish. So there's no resource conservation. As a result, even immature fish is being caught in the lake, and this has led to the depletion of fish.
It's an open source at the moment. Everybody can go and catch as many fish as they like.
So due to the decline, many people are diverting now, and more so, some are going to the tourism part, fish farming, and also other going to the other crop farming within their surrounding.
Water hyacinth, another invasive species, now chokes waterways and fishing areas, making boat navigation difficult and reducing access to fishing grounds.
I think if you've gone to the lakes, you've seen that the water hyacinths have sometimes taken up part of the landing sites, part of the lake. So fishing in those areas, and part of this water hyacinths affects the boat engines when people are going to do the fishing.
These challenges create interconnected problems. As fish populations decline, more people compete for remaining resources. As forests disappear, flooding increases. But across the basin, communities are developing their own solutions. Communities aren't waiting for outside solutions. They are developing their own approaches that combine traditional knowledge with innovative methods. From transforming waste sites into community spaces to training local environmental monitors, these solutions work because they emerge from within the communities themselves. In Uganda, Plastic Talks transformed a decade-old illegal dump site into a vibrant eco-park. In Kenya, the NAM Festival creates campaigns connecting local action with global water justice movements.
We employ art in various forms and mediums, including theater, photography, art installations, public therapy, dialogue, and even festivals of the arts, where we combine multimedia presentations to provoke people's emotions and arouse dialogue that is meaningful towards the conservation of our nature ecosystems.
These contemporary approaches aren't starting from scratch. They draw on centuries of sustainable practices that communities are now expressing in new forms.
The natural material, the story of the past, had credible levels of sustainability. And so while we're doing our artwork, we tend to move back to that, to remind the people, to communicate to the stories of the past and the goodness of that past in ways of environmental conservation, social well-being.
We involve the women and the youth in Plastic Talks by introducing programs that involve community drives, where we rally the communities together. We pick up plastic all over the community, and then we come back to the site here. Then we educate them. We teach them how to recycle, reuse, and repurpose the plastic through making these beautiful sculptures that you see here on site.
When you just talk without those visual aids, then you don't communicate well or effectively.
These creative approaches help communities express environmental concerns and build collective understanding. Through environmental education integrated with artistic practice, art becomes a bridge between knowledge and action, inspiring collaborative efforts to protect the environment.
If we can catch a younger generation early on and start talking about environmental issues through art and creativity, because you're just doing it in a way that's fun, that's interesting. And we see that consistency with the children who turn up for the art classes. They're there every single week. They don't miss one.
We try to design solutions with them in participation so that there is collective responsibility and ownership and sustainability in whatever we are trying to do.
Ekintu kyetulaba nga kigenda kwolona sekita okugeza ng'ebiveera biki tutebisuula mu mazzi naye tutebisuula abantu abatali meant kubeera.
The youth have been empowered or they've been engaged in collecting these plastics for recycling. So if we can also be innovative enough to make sure that these plastics are recycled into several other products.
Creative approaches work alongside citizen science programs that train community members to monitor their own environment. By actively engaging communities as environmental stewards, these programs create ownership and responsibility. Students and communities test water quality and share findings with university researchers and policymakers. When communities monitor their own environment, they develop a deeper understanding of the challenges they face. This hands-on knowledge often becomes the starting point for practical solutions.
Citizen science brings the community members on board so that at every point where you're implementing, you have a group of people that have been trained.
That is neutral.
One of the parents was saying that at least now they are aware that maybe if they do farming near the lake and the river and they use fertilizer, then there is a way that when that fertilizer is swept in the water, can actually affect the quality of water, because they were doing tests like the test for the levels of nitrates and phosphates. And you know, initially they were blind. They were just applying fertilizer for the sake.
People do not know how much fertilizer to apply in the soil. So the fertilizer is washed downstream, and it affects the ecological balance of the Lake Victoria. And the people's livelihood in this particular area is basically dependent on the aquatic lifestyle. So once the lake is messed up, it basically means that people's livelihood is also messed up.
Citizen science helps to fill the different water quality data gaps in a way supplementing in situ monitoring, especially in areas where routine monitoring is not being done. In addition, it creates awareness in the communities because it actively engages them in the data collection as well as the analysis, giving them a broad perspective of their water quality.
Atamiti tupande katika musito wetu, atamiti tupande katika musito wetu, musito ni muhimu kwa maisha ya binadamu.
Communities are implementing restoration efforts that work with natural processes. Tree planting, wetland restoration, and sustainable agriculture projects are being led by local organizations, with women often taking central roles through groups like Women in Water and Natural Resources Conservation.
Tunaelimisha watu wetu kwamba tutumie miti ya kiasili na bambu kuhifadhi hizo riparian areas ambazo ziko karibu na mto. Pia Wakati tunafanya hii pia tunasaidia wale watu ambao wako karibu na hizi mto kufanya kitu inaitwa farm plan. Wapange mashamba yao jinsi ambayo wanaitumia, ndo tusiwe na mmomonyoko wa udongo ambao unaelekea kwa mto. Tukikuwa na ukulima kisasa, sustainable agriculture, utapata kwamba tunapunguza sana kemikali ambazo zinaenda kwa maji.
While women in the basin face disproportionate climate impacts, research shows they are often the most effective agents of environmental change. Their deep knowledge of local ecosystems make women-led conservation efforts particularly successful.
Women in Water inashikilia sana wamama katika masuala ya uhifadhi wa misitu na mazingira yetu, kwa sababu wamama ndio wanaathirika sana wakati tunakuwa na mambo ya climate change.
Wape tupande miti, wape tupande miti, ukipewa ukitema sauri yako, ukipewa ukitema ni sauri wako. Gikwa mine kale eweche magi climate change ni ng'eny. Wamama gini ma gidhi puodho, kaka ginyalo odhi puodho, pi onge ma ginyalo konyrego. Joma chuo gin girito ni otednegi, ketnegi pi luok. Koro wamama ema dhi dwaro pi ma mondo mi okony ji e dala. Wamama ema dhi moto, dhi dwaro yien mondo mi ang' ochwek godo.
In the basin, actually, we are training women on the use of nature-based solutions to be able to counter the impacts of climate change. And they are planting bamboo, they are planting napier grass, they are planting vetiver, they are planting indigenous trees so as to be able to control soil erosion. The organization has adopted a total of 300 hectares of land of forest area that had been destroyed, and we have been able to carry out restoration measures to plant indigenous trees within the forest.
Nashukuru wanga kunipatia mti. Hakika nilifurahia, niliipanda na nikasema mti ina manufaa mengi katika maisha ya mwanadamu. Sikuwa na nyumba, mzee aliniacha bila kitu. Lakini saa hii pesa zenye wanga napata na za merry-go round nilijenga nyumba. Wanga iko kama mume wangu sasa.
Individual community actions connect to broader policy frameworks. Stakeholder workshops bring together communities, government officials, researchers, and NGOs to develop collaborative approaches across national boundaries.
Given that it's a transboundary lake, it's necessary for us to have regional collaborations and also knowledge sharing among the different countries in the basin.
Government is enacting a new water policy as well as a new water act to try and address the emerging challenges, particularly related to climate change and the transboundary perspective. At also regional level, we've developed the East African water policy to try and harmonize our approaches in handling these transboundary issues. So we believe that these are very important in making sure that they guide the partner states to move in the same direction. Otherwise, if we all do things differently, then you may find that our efforts are not well coordinated and they could be doing more harm than good.
River Yala inapita karibu counties 4. Kuna Nandi, kuna Kakamega, kuna Vihiga na kuna Siaya. So kupata hawa watu wote kukubaliana na polisi zao, wanakuwa na polisi tofauti tofauti. Unapata wale wa Nandi polisi yao ipatane na labda na ya Kakamega ama ya huko Siaya, kwa sababu kila county iko na mipangilio yake na iko na mahitaji yake. Lakini ndio uweze kuweka hawa watu pamoja msaidiane kuhifadhi River Yala, ni kwamba tunakuwa na kitu inaitwa stakeholders meeting, ambapo unaita watu kutoka hizi serikali zote za counties na pia national government, wanakuja pamoja, wanatoa maoni kuhusiana na vile watahifadhi huu mto.
Individual and community actions gain power when they connect to broader policy frameworks. But effective policy requires genuine and equitable collaboration between communities, researchers, and governments.
Before the law, for an example, was discussed, we brought community leaders together, we brought fishermen together, we brought everybody together to talk to people who were drafting that legislation, to give their view.
The involvement of community members into planning, the involvement of research, because even research, the academia and research institutions have been working independently of the normal government departments, and even that 50 years, yet they are so rich in their research data that can actually inform the government planning systems.
We need implementation of the policies that are there. Our environmental policy, can the government ensure that it is being implemented? And in areas where we do not have policies, like in the area of citizen science, the area of the use of indigenous knowledge, can the government help us come up with policies and have these policies implemented?
Going forward, we'll see the county governments respond positively to the need for environmental conservation.
Government and other development partners should also look at the issues of alternative sources of income for the fishing communities.
The Lake Victoria Basin's forests generate rainfall. Its wetlands filter water, and its fisheries sustain livelihoods across 5 countries. Supporting community-led solutions requires engagement at all levels, from individuals to governments to international partners. These approaches offer lessons for other transboundary watersheds facing similar challenges. From art that transforms waste into awareness, to science that empowers local monitoring, to restoration that heals damaged landscapes, solutions are emerging from within communities themselves. Yet time is running short. The relationship between humanity and nature demands urgent attention.
Action starts with an individual. If each of us decided that we should conserve the basin, we should conserve the resources, that would go a long way in getting our conservation goals.
We need to work together to be able to maintain the basin, improve the water, maintain it, and try to be able to work together towards a good standard of the water we deserve and need.
We can easily agree with the Professor Wangari Maathai that nature is unforgiving. Destroy nature today, and tomorrow it will destroy you.